History. I'm your host, Laura Siemens. This is our summer season. I'm telling the stories of our great hymns. This podcast tells the story of the church in chronological order. We started with the story of Jesus, and we have traveled through history into the 1800s. For this summer, we're going to tell the story of the church in chronological order through our great hymns. So, enjoy this summer season. On May 7th, 1839, Elisha Albright Hoffman was born in Pennsylvania to parents Francis A. Hoffman, who was a pastor, and Rebecca Hoffman. Elisha grew up in a deeply religious household, influenced by his father's ministry and being completely immersed in the church right from birth. Growing up in such a spiritually rich environment, young Elisha was immersed in the teachings of the Bible and the practices of the Christian faith. The Hoffman family was one where faith was woven into the fabric of every single part of their daily life. They had family prayers, Bible readings, and hymn singing, and this was all part of their regular day-to-day activities. And this shaped Elisha's spiritual outlook and also nurtured his early interest in music. Because his father was a pastor, that meant Elisha was exposed to church services and all types of other religious gatherings. And hymns and gospel songs were, of course, a central role of his life. His early education took place in the public schools of Philadelphia. His teachers were so surprised at how smart he was, and he had this natural ability to learn anything. However, at home, it was his love for music and hymns that really blossomed. He would sit at the family piano, absorbing in all the melodies and harmonies of the hymns that his family was singing. And this early exposure laid this foundation for his future as a prolific hymn writer. Now, in addition to his musical environment, Elisha's childhood was marked by this strong sense of community and service. His father's pastoral work often involved doing outreach and helping those in need. This instilled values of being a servant and helping others in Elisha from a very young age. And this upbringing influenced his spiritual development, and it inspired him to have a lifelong commitment to serving other people, and he would use music and ministry to serve others. Now, his childhood, steeped in faith, music, and community service, set the stage for his future contributions. It was this early experience in this loving, devout, amazing family environment that fostered his connection, his deep faith, and his passion that he would eventually use to inspire so many more. Then, when Elisha was in his early 20s, the Civil War broke out in 1861. Like many young men of his age, he felt called to serve his country. So, he enlisted in the Union Army, joining the soldiers and fighting to preserve the nation. This period of his life exposed him to the harsh realities of war, the struggles of the soldiers, and he found the profound need for spiritual support in these trying times. Remember, this is a young man who had grown up in the most wonderful, loving, kind environment, suddenly thrust into the Civil War. He witnessed firsthand the sufferings and hardships the troops faced, and this experience reinforced his understanding in the power of faith and the comfort that hymns and spiritual songs could provide. This time in the army really helped shape his ministry, and he often drew from those experiences to offer solace and hope through his hymns. The Civil War tested Elisha physically and emotionally, but in the end, he had a deeper faith. The battlefield challenges and the traumas brought him closer to God, reinforcing his belief in the importance of spiritual resilience. But also what he learned is that there was a healing power in music. Often, Elisha would find that people on the battlefield, dying or sick, found comfort when he would be able to sing with them. After the war, Elisha returned to civilian life, but he had a new sense of purpose. He took his experiences and his faith and he focused them on hymn writing, creating songs that resonated with the themes of hope, redemption, and the enduring love of God. This Civil War experience really enriched his understanding of what human suffering meant and the need for divine comfort, and he knew that hymns were powerful and would be able to help others. Now he continued his education and he received his diploma in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and later enrolled in the Union Seminary of Evangelical Association. He began his ministry early, working in various capacities within the Evangelical Association. He spent the next 11 years working for the Evangelical Association's publishing house in Cleveland, Ohio. And during that time, he met a woman named Susan. The two were married when Elisha was 26 and Susan was 22. And the couple very happily welcomed 3 little boys to their family. By the 1860s, Elisha had begun pastoral work, serving in churches in Ohio, Michigan, and Illinois. And all along, he had this keen interest in church music, and he saw the importance of church music in the services. He composed hymns and gospel songs. It was the 1870s, where he wrote so many hymns. But then, tragedy hit the family in 1876, when his wife Susan suddenly died. Elisha was a single father of 3 young boys, pastoring a church without his wife, who had been his support throughout his ministry. Shortly after his wife's death, Elisha wrote these words: "Down at the cross where my Savior died, down where for cleansing from sin I cried, there to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to his name. Glory to his name. Glory to his name. There to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to his name." At the age of 40, in 1870, Elisha met a young woman named Emma, who was 22 at the time. The two were married and soon had a baby boy. He continued to preach and write music, and during that time, D.L. Moody and Ira Sankey used many of his songs in their meetings, which made them spread in popularity. I've done episodes on D.L. Moody and Ira Sankey, and I'll put those in the show notes. But when the founder of the Salvation Army, William Booth, passed away, a man named Vachel Lindsay wrote a poem called General Booth Enters Heaven. And in that poem, he used the words, "Are you washed in the blood?" Elisha was really impacted by these words, and it inspired him to write these words: "Have you been to Jesus for the cleansing power? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you fully trusting in His grace this hour? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?" This song became very popular and was used in revival meetings throughout England and America. 1 year later, in 1887, Elisha was talking to his friend Anthony Johnson as the two men were walking and talking. Anthony said he received 2 letters from students of his who had both lost their wives in tragic sudden deaths. Elisha shared his own grief, and as the 2 men talked about how they could help people with their grief, Elisha opened the Bible to Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 27. "The eternal God is my refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms." The men together wrote these words: "What a fellowship, what a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. What a blessedness, what a peace is mine, leaning on the everlasting arms." The hymn is inspired by the promise of God's eternal support and comfort. Throughout the 1890s, Elisha continued his pastoral duties while dedicating significant time to composing and writing more hymns and hymnals. His hymns included numerous hymnals and songbooks that influenced worship practices in many denominations. He lived for 90 years, and during those 90 years, he wrote over 2,000 hymns and over 50 songbooks. On November 25th, 1929, Elisha Hoffman passed away in Chicago, Illinois, leaving behind a rich legacy of gospel hymns that have inspired countless believers. His contributions to hymns are celebrated by Christian communities across the world. His most popular hymns, Glory to His Name, Are You Washed in the Blood, and Leaning on the Everlasting Arms, remain enduring favorites in worship services. He is remembered for his ability to convey profound spiritual truths through simple, heartfelt lyrics that resonated with worshipers really of all ages. His life and his work was an example of the power of music to uplift, to inspire, and to reflect unwavering devotion of your faith. We're going to end this episode with a song, Leaning on the Everlasting, which is a song by the Norton Hall Band of the Southern Seminary. And if you want to learn more about the Southern Seminary, you can check out their links in the show notes. But I'm going to tell you, their music is phenomenal, and you will love their YouTube channel. So you'll want to add those to your morning worship list. All right, here you go. I hope you enjoy.
Secure from all alone.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on the history of the hymns. We will be returning to our regular church history podcast in September. If you want to hear more podcasts, check out my website, lauraleesiemens.com. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share these stories with your friends. We'll see you next week.